All right, everybody, welcome back. Good afternoon. We've got some more safeties to look at here, and now we're on to a tier that I would call kind of the bridge between the low-end starters and the depth, the high-end depth. And I could see a situation where the Seahawks want to get one of these guys, even though they have Love and Okada for the time being, because there's not really a lot going on behind those guys, and we haven't really seen Okada for a full season, and there could be some concern that what he did last year might not last into 2026. So you want to give yourself a viable, not just backup, but somebody that can take the pressure off Okada and fill in if Okada ends up slipping. So I think these guys are pretty viable as like a temporary backup and also giving you that good third safety, and maybe he ends up starting over Okada. Can't rule it out. All right, everybody, before we go any further into this video, I want to take a minute to tell you guys about the Sleeper app and some new functionality they've recently rolled out, Team Picks. With Team Picks, you can pick winners in all kinds of sporting events. Right now, we have NBA basketball, college basketball, NHL hockey is going on, baseball's going to start in a little more than a month, and of course, you have futures in the NFL, even though the games in the NFL are over. Right now, if you look to my left here, you can actually see you can bet on next year's Super Bowl winner. They've got the Seahawks leading the way in those odds, by the way, at 12%. How does that make you feel as a Seahawks fan? But you can bet on MVP, you can bet on draft picks, you can bet on player destinations, all kinds of fun stuff, even though the season is over. So that is Team Picks over on Sleeper. A lot of fun stuff you can do. All right, so our first safety here is going to be Tony Adams of the New York Jets, and this is going to be one of those guys that is just coming into his prime theoretically. He's been a pretty decent part of the Jets the last few years, obviously not a tremendous team, but you can see that he's been good, although he did miss a big chunk of 2025, and he's never played a full season. So I don't think this guy's going to command a lot of respect or a lot of attention, but he has shown capabilities of being a quality player in this league. And even if he's not a starter, then he is a very good backup with some third safety upside type stuff. So Tony Adams, PFF liked him in 2025, didn't love him, definitely flawed, but for a good decent chunk of his career, maybe not the whole time, but for part of that time with the Jets, not a lot going on around him that you would have been envious of. Good PFF grades throughout most of his career, actually. That first year didn't play a ton, so I wouldn't look into that too much, but good player, and the price is right. Spotrac has him at 3 years, 19.5 million, which I don't know if you want to commit for 3 years on a kind of fringe starter like Tony Adams, and I don't know who would. I imagine a team that doesn't really value safety all that much, that just feels like they can survive with an okay guy, will end up doing something like this. Just basically, there are teams out there that I think look at safety as something you just need to get out of the way, and it's possible that that team signs Adams to a deal because they want a veteran that they just don't have to think about because he's decent. But 6.5 million per year, sure. Dane Belton is going to be another guy kind of in that conversation. Younger player, he's only 25. Spent the last 4 years with the Jets, the other New York team. Played a lot of football. Never been a full-time starter, though, but he's been a relatively productive ball hawk during that time. Had 120 tackles last year, which is, I mean, I don't want to read too much into that. We are talking about a player on a pretty bad team, and bad teams often have guys that have a lot of tackles. That's how the game works. But not a bad player. Pro Football Focus thought he was all right. Definitely flawed, but overall, they thought he was pretty decent. Previous years, they've graded him okay, but you go back to his early couple years, really, really bad. So the last 2 years, obviously, that's what we care about a little bit more anyway. He's been serviceable. You're talking about probably 2 years, 12.4 million if Spotrac is correct. Again, another guy that's like, maybe he's a starter, maybe he's just a really good depth piece. So you walk the line between those two things and you give him a decent contract. This is another guy who may end up going to one of those teams that is just like, we just need competent players or players at safety. We don't need anything special. And obviously for the Seahawks, I think you're talking about a pretty good setup for a player like that because maybe we don't need a safety, but maybe we do. And right now, we're not really insulated against injury. So Dane Belton might be the right kind of fit here, where you're getting a guy who can be a very good backup for you and third safety upside. And maybe if something surprising happens, you can plug him in and get away with it. All right, so that is guy number 2. Number 3, we've got Nick Cross, another young safety that has put together a pretty good first stretch of his career rather, but is probably going to go to another team this offseason. So he's been with the Colts for the last 4 years, played in every game over the last 2 seasons, by the way, or 3 seasons, excuse me. So very available. Done some decent work taking the ball away. Not a tremendous ball hawk, but a lot of tackles the last 2 years. Again, be careful of tackle stats. But he was also nice on the blitz last year. A lot of quarterback knockdowns, a lot of hits on the quarterback. So Nick Cross, there is there is some stuff going on here that I think is pretty appealing, especially because he's not even going to turn 25 until after the season starts. I think there's an anticipation that Nick Cross could become a better player than he's been because he is so young. And other than part of 2025, not stellar teams he's been a part of for the most part. Pro Football Focus thought he was okay in 2025, not great. They were okay with him. Year before that, they liked him a lot more, graded quite well. Year before that, they graded him quite well as well. So you want to read a lot into the 2025 number, go ahead, but there's reason to believe this guy's better than that. And Spotrac says 4 years, 24.3 million, which that's a little long term if you're trying to sign somebody to be like a stopgap and how should I put this? Quality depth. But maybe this is your replacement plan. Maybe you sign Nick Cross for a long-term deal. And I understand why it would be a long-term deal because he is so young. And then you go, okay, for this first year, he's our backup and our third safety. But then next year, Julian Love is probably gone. Nick Cross becomes a starter, and then it's off to the races with him for the next couple years at least. So maybe that's the succession plan. And I would not mind that. Nick Cross is a guy who, by the time you get to that 2027 season, could be a very good player. So I like the idea, but you have to like Nick Cross a decent amount. You have to be one of those guys that feels like he has upside beyond what we've seen. You have to be one of those guys that feels like he could become a much better player given a year or two in a better defense with better coaching. So I like that one, but again, it's committing. Final guy for this video, Kyle Duggar. Kyle Duggar of the most recently Pittsburgh Steelers, spent his whole career with New England until he got traded to Pittsburgh this last year because he didn't fit their scheme. Kind of a weird career, right? This was a guy who was very highly thought of a couple off seasons ago. He was a very coveted free agent. And now I don't really know what the outlook is on him. He's got some good numbers. He's had good seasons, takes the ball away a decent amount, but I don't know how much that is going to carry the way here as we move towards a season where he's about to turn 30, right? And he just got traded for very little at the deadline last season. So this one's tricky, definitely a stopgap solution. This is just going to be one of those ones where you look at it and then you go, okay, we need a 1 year or maybe 2 year solution for reserve safety. PFF not high on his 2025 at all. They graded him very poorly. 2024 even worse. Now you go back to some previous years, it gets a little bit better. You can find some good years by him on PFF, especially these early ones, but recently it's been tough. Like this is the best you can do. 2023 it was okay. But these last 2 years have been awful. So there are warning signs already that this guy is already kind of over the hill, even though he's not even on the wrong side of 30 yet. Spotrac thinks he's going to get 2 years, 11.9 million. So you are saving good money. And if he ends up being a quality third safety for you, you're getting your money's worth. But are you getting that? It's not clear. It's not a guarantee. Kyle Duggar could be just kind of washed up. There's evidence the last 2 years that he hasn't been the same. And I think that there are extenuating circumstances here. I do think he was better when he got to Pittsburgh, but I don't think he was great either. All right, that'll do it. These are kind of your low end starters. These are your fringe starters. So let me know what you guys think of this crew. Maybe a future Seahawk is in this group. Maybe you can even kind of find a way to, like I said, the Nick Cross thing is interesting because I think he could be a long term solution as well. But you're also getting a capable stopgap for a season as a third safety. All right, I'm gonna go and get on out of here. At least one more safety video later today. We'll see if there's anything else. But everybody have a good rest of your day. Go Hawks. See you guys soon.